Hi, everyone. Welcome again to another episode of the Voices for Voices TV show and podcast. I'm your host, founder of Voices for Voices, Justin Allen Hayes. Thank you so much for joining us on this episode, as well as our over 260 other episodes that are powerful, invigorating, inspiring, and share voices of individuals just like you. Thank you for being with us and sharing this moment with us. If you can do us a big favor, give us a big thumbs up, like, share, follow, subscribe. All those things are free to do, and we would greatly appreciate if you would be able to help us out that way. If you're able to monetarily help us out, we are a 501(c)(3) nonprofit charity. Voices for Voices is. And so your donation is 100% tax deductible, and you can do that by heading over to voicesforvoices.org, or you can go to Venmo and find us at Voices for Voices. Thank you so much. Thank you for being with us. We have a great show to talk about well, I guess a large current event that there's been some movement on. We've been tracking and following, and we were just made aware of some changes and to the actual story itself. Um, so to do a little bit of background. There was back in 2022 on November 13th, there was or there were uh, their college students that were staying and that they were attending University of Idaho, and they were coming home from where they had been earlier that night. Uh, ordered one of the students ordered some food, and after that there was a quadruple, so four, a quadruple homicide murder. So four students uh, were were tragically murdered, and those are the names are Madison Mogen. She was 21 years old. Kaylee Goncalves, she was 21 years old. Xana Kernodle, she was 20 years old. And Ethan Chapin, he was 20 years old. Uh, and so this happened, the estimates were around 4 a.m. That this that these crimes were perpetrated. And And so since then, there's been a lot of controversy. One is the home where these students were living and staying was demolished, which which I'm learning through different sources and individuals that sometimes juries will go on what they call a jury view or a crime scene view, uh, where the jurors will head to where the crime is has allegedly occurred, so they can see the scene, tell distances, see different angles. Were there steps? If there was, where were they at, and where was Madison at? Where was Kaylee? Where was Xana? Where was Ethan? Where were their bedrooms? And so that happened a while back where the home was demolished. So there was going to be no jury view. possible of that residence. And so there's a lot of people that thought that was not maybe the best idea, the best thing to do. Uh, there have also been reports where the families of the four University of Idaho students that were tragically taken from us, that their families weren't being being briefed or given information about how the case is going and how they could help. And so that left a lot of uneasiness with family members because they want to share their perspectives and have an idea of what's happening and when uh, and I get it, for security and to try to keep things close to the vest so they don't get out publicly before a court hearing that's gonna discuss. So there was that happened and has been happening. So that house demolished, family not really being kept in the loop or if there's any information that they felt or feel that was important that they weren't given the proper channels and the ways to meet with authorities. And then we get to what broke last night, or depending on where you live, last night or this morning, and the trial. So, an individual named Bryan Kohberger was arrested um, through DNA that was collected at his parents' house in Pennsylvania, and then used, a genealogy database, and so that happened, and that DNA traced back to a K-bar knife sheath that there was a fingerprint on the snap of that, and that was left near one of the tragically taken students, uh, and so that matched with the DNA, and so Mr. Kohberger uh, was arrested uh, and then taken, taken back to Idaho, where he was to stand trial. And the trial was scheduled to begin next month in August. So very close, right? We just turned the calendar page yesterday or this morning, and now we're in the month of July. We have Independence Day coming up on Friday, and so August obviously is right around the corner. And Mr. Kohberger is 30 years old. The victims 21, 21, 20, and 20 age-wise. And so this home invasion with authorities unraveled, and their theory was that Mr. Kohberger was the individual who perpetrated these crimes. So where are we at today? Well, news broke that Mr. Kohberger, who was facing the death penalty if convicted because of the certain criteria in the state of Idaho, uh, he was going to be facing a death penalty going through with the trial, and was found guilty. Then the death penalty was on the table as an option for one of the penalties. Uh, well, the big shocker that's come through is that Mr. Kohberger has agreed to a plea deal, and this is and has caught the families of Madison, Kaylee, Xana, and Ethan, uh, that they were not privy to the conversations about the plea deal. They were against the plea deal. They wanted this to go to trial. They wanted Mr. Kohberger to uh, have that opportunity to face the death penalty and to have that as his sentence. Uh, and so, yeah, a plea deal was reached between the Idaho student murder suspect, Bryan Kohberger, and the DA, the district attorney's office. Really, and it spares his life. Uh, and the families come out and quote uh, from a Fox News contributor and former Washington, D.C. homicide detective who has been following the case, Ted Williams, says in quote, those families have been victimized by the very prosecutors who should have had their backs, end quote. And the Goncalves family, so Kaylee's family, uh, also issued a statement hours after this news became public, saying that they had been, quote, vaguely, end quote, approached on Friday about the possibility of a deal, but they were blindsided by the fact that um, it was done. Apparently on Sunday was when all this went down, and then obviously it takes some time to make it public. And Shannon Gray, who is an attorney for the Gonzalez family, says, quote, the death penalty is merely an illusion in the criminal justice system. When available, it serves as a bargaining tool for the state or district attorney. And when rarely applied, it's never enforced due to a highly inefficient appellate process, end quote. Beginning a quote again from attorney Shannon Gray for the Gonzalez family. Begin quote. The notion that someone can plead guilty to a crime and still face years of appellate appeals to say, well, this we're appealing because this was handled incorrectly, and so those take quite a long time. Uh, according to Attorney Shannon Gray, the appellate delays reveal a systemic failure, end quote. And then, quote, we weren't even called about the plea. We received an email with a letter attached. And this statement continued. That's how Latah County's prosecutor's office treats murder victims' families. Adding insult to injury, they're rushing the plea, giving families just 1 day to coordinate and appear at the courthouse for a plea on July 2nd, just tomorrow. The Gonsalves parents live more than 7 hours away from this location in Rostrum, and the hearing's going to be held on Wednesday, so tomorrow, in Boise, Idaho, after Kohberger, prior to this plea deal, successfully argued for a change of venue. And members, again, another one of the students that was tragically taken from us, uh, Xana Kernodle's family, they also had some strong words about the plea deal. Her aunt, Kim Kernodle, told TMZ that the relatives were vehemently opposed to the idea. when Lake County prosecutor Bill Thompson's office first raised it over the weekend. Uh, it's a little bit about the crime. All four were stabbed multiple times with a large knife. We talked about this particular knife, a K bar, so a KA-BAR uh, knife sheath. So what where the knife goes in and the sword uh, had Kohberger's DNA, and it was near Madison Mogen's body. And Kohberger, a little bit about him, his background. He was studying for a PhD in criminology at neighboring state, Washington State University in Pullman, Washington. And that's just about 10 minutes up the road from Moscow, Idaho, where where the victims were undergraduates at the University of Idaho. So this is a development in a very high profile case. Uh, it highlights an area that we as an organization that we talk about, that we represent. We try to help get their voices out there. The victims, so the four victims, they've tragically passed. We believe they're in heaven. And so every day the families of all four have to relive the crime, the details, the way social media is, the way different shows are, podcasts, maybe some not nice comments directed towards them. And so these are victims. The four main victims are in heaven, but those aren't the only victims. The family are also victims. And to see and hear how one could say they were unfairly treated or were not included in these plea deal discussions as far as, hey, we're going to talk about it today, and then tomorrow a decision is going to be made. And as was mentioned, we're going to find out by an email or a media report or social media. Something has to change across the board for victims, all victims. This just highlights it because it's a high profile case. And there wasn't the support that one would think would be there for families of victims and victims themselves of losing a loved one tragically, unexpectedly, at the hands of another, allegedly, Mr. Kohberger. And then we have across the board where we talk about human trafficking as another example. We have victims who have endured, one could argue, from inhumane conditions, inhumane treatment, derogatory terms spoken to them. Um, and then if they are lucky enough, because not all human trafficking victims get away. They do get away. The support that should be there from the community for survivors of human trafficking, of survivors of family members that are tragically taken, uh, other types of sexual abuse, that more often than not, this is my opinion, what it seems like is the people or individuals who do these crimes are involved with these crimes, involved with the human trafficking, that are involved with, in this case, Mr. Kohberger allegedly being the perpetrator and responsible for the quadruple uh, murder of the University of Idaho four students in Moscow, Idaho. And so for families not to be included in those discussions and to understand, to have that understanding of we're just about ready to present this, or we're just about ready to accept it. Mr. Kober pleads guilty. He spends the rest of his life behind bars. Some can argue that that's better because it's less money that the state of Idaho will spend on Mr. Kohberger versus all the appeals and all that comes with somebody that if they are convicted of and sentenced to the death penalty, that doesn't happen overnight. Doesn't happen, not even close to overnight. And so there's that side of things where some people may have comments about that. And again, they're allowed to have their comments, their opinions. So are we. I think it's time for us as a nation, the United States of America, to not just offer empty words of support, empty words of helping. It's time for action, people, individuals, humans of the United States of America, and I, I would hope across the world that authorities and people that are maybe in the legal profession, we need to do better. If we look at it the opposite way, let's say an attorney hypothetically has their child tragically taken. You don't think that attorney is going to do everything, uh, turn over every stone, uh, try for justice? You're darn right they would. So why don't we do this for other people, the regular people that we don't know their names as much? They're not as high profile, or they don't have the deep pocket that the other side has, and or oh, I'm connected to them and sorry, I can't help. But let me refer you to somebody. And then that somebody says the same thing, and then it just becomes the hamster on the wheel, just chasing and chasing and chasing and chasing, and have a heck of a time to find find people that are willing to take a stand to support victims who are unruly treated, who are going to interact with families like the four students from Idaho that were tragically taken, their families. That there's going to be interaction that if there's a plea deal on the table and the family says no, and they say no, and they say no, they say no, then the prosecutor, the DA, whoever's prosecuting that case needs not just to hear them, not just to hear what they say, but to put that into action. Say, you know what? I know this individual, we could be done with this today. We can sign these papers and, abracadabra, and then it's taken care of. No, these families deserve more. These victims who have to live each and every day without their loved ones, have to be reminded of the crime that this individual has allegedly perpetrated. And given that he admitted that he's guilty, so he wouldn't have the option of a death penalty if a jury found him guilty. So he's basically admitting that he's the one responsible. And so the judge, the DA, district attorney, prosecutor can refuse that plea and say, after further consideration with families, we've decided to rescind this plea agreement. And I mean, that's their job. That's the prosecutor's job. That's how they get paid. They get paid for the tax money of that state. And those four students, well, maybe they weren't living and growing up uh, in Idaho, I guarantee the tuition and all that, I guarantee that some of that money went for taxes to the state, to which got returned and is in part paying for these district attorneys, prosecuting attorneys who are just saying, he's admitting he's guilty. We really don't want to go through the trial. He might be found not guilty, and then we could have had him, Mr. Kohberger, admit to his crimes, and he would avoid the death penalty, and he would be sentenced for the rest of his life in prison without uh, parole, the opportunity for parole. So we can do something, voices for voices. That's why we're doing this show, actually, is to highlight victims, people that have been taken advantage of first, in one way or another, sexually abused, human trafficked, uh, family member murdered, taken from us too soon and in tragic manner. Somebody died at the hands of another, in this case, Mr. Kohberger. It's time for the movement. It's time to stand up, time to step out of the shadows. It's time for prosecutors to step up to the plate and prosecute these cases and do your job. Do your job. Do your job. Do your job. And so we're failed. The state of Idaho, the prosecutor on this case, has failed the family and has failed the four students that were tragically murdered. And there's other cases where somebody's a high profile individual, they take advantage, they use their power, their influence, and then voila, nobody will take that victim's case. It's time for things to change. It's time. It's the year 2025. It's not 1965. The year is 19. The year is not 1965. The year is 2025. In fact, with us being on July 1st, we're one day closer to the year 2026 than we were yesterday. And so we ask for support of all kinds for all survivors, whether it's a high profile individual who has been suspected of this abuse, these crimes, shouldn't matter, right? We were told nobody's above the law, right? That's what we were told with, President Trump. Nobody's above the law. And so he had to go through many courtrooms prior to the reelection. And whether you like him or not, whether you voted for him or not, that it doesn't matter. What matters is this premise of nobody is above the law. So Mr. Kohberger is not above the law. He should be prosecuted as such as the family, especially being so vehemently against this plea deal. Prosecutors should prosecute. It's a high profile individual, a celebrity, a former ball player, current ball player, uh, somebody that has deep pockets and tries to get things quieted down and again have these plea deals and have things just go away. So it's time. It's past time. Let's do this. We can do this all together. If you have the ability to help, help. Not just talk to help. Not just sit on the phone or stand on the phone and listen and agree and blah 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 blah. That's what it amounts to if you're not willing to take action. If you're not willing to take action, you should find another profession because we need people who are going to take action, who are going to do their job, who are going to fight for survivors. You're not just letting the survivors down, you're letting all humanity down. You're causing people to stay in the shadows, to be afraid to come out and talk and share their story, to uh, put a police report together and to hypothetically have those police reports disappear and an investigation not done. And uh, if that's you, if that's anyone at their job, find another profession, please. If you're not willing to stand up for the little person, you're not willing to do your job and help David versus Goliath, if you're not willing to bring the families who've been tragically affected in this quadruple homicide in Idaho, if you're not willing to go the distance, find another profession, please, please. I promise you, there's more people, if given the opportunity, would gladly take your place and gladly enforce the law, gladly take information and feedback from families that will gladly represent at reduced or no cost for a person that's been abused. Doesn't matter how they've been abused. If they've been abused and they're a survivor, stand with them, stand behind them, but then also stand with them. Be their voice. Like Voices for Voices is for so many here in the United States and across the world. Please step up to the plate. Please do your job. Because as I mentioned, if you were on the flip side of that and it's your family member or it's you that were abused and not a damn thing is being done, you're going to be expressing yourself any and every opportunity you can till somebody will listen. So if you have somebody that you're talking to who is going through that or has gone through that, you can be their voice. You can share verbally and legally what survivors may not be able to. So thank you so much for joining us on this episode. We tackle tough topics. We tackle tough topics and we bring the information to you, the people. Thank you. God bless America. God bless the world. And God bless every human, past, present, future, on earth or in heaven.